Generation X is sick of your bull.
Alright, I'm gonna do this. I look like shit, but that's alright. Fuck it. I just ran across this. I watched like the first like 10 seconds or so, and I'm like, okay, I need to do this. So let's just talk about this. Well, can we?
It's quite mad to think about it when you consider all of the air quotes enhanced editions.
You used the term air quotes.
Current film libraries, but yes,
really,
or not, George Lucas did actually
air quotes
the scenes that he filmed during his time atop Lightsaber Mountain. Why he didn't just re-edit and re-release another version of these films is anyone's guess, but still, there do exist moments that are now owned by the House of Mouse.
All right, come on.
Lucas wasn't too happy with.
Come on,
so
out with it.
Them as I'm Jules. This is WhatCulture-Star
Oh, hi, Jules.
These are 10 Star Wars
wherever the fuck you are.
Lucas hated. Number 10, killing off Darth Maul. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Did George Lucas regret killing off Darth Maul at the time? No, not at all. In hindsight, though,
of course not. He was intended to be a throwaway character.
Of course, Maul was sliced in half by Obi-Wan Kenobi at the climax of The Phantom Menace. Despite being the greatest part of Episode 1, this Sith was now off the
I question that.
franchise moved forward. In the years since The Phantom Menace,
hold on. Damn it.
release, though, Maul has famously risen from the dead with a...
Hold on. Let me say something here. Number one, Maul was a great part of the Phantom Menace, but he was not the greatest. That honor belongs to Qui-Gon Jinn. And y'all know why. Alright, let's go.
Them first resurfacing in the Clone Wars in 2008. And why was he brought back from his apparent grave? Well, it's because George Lucas realized what a great character he was and wanted him back in the game.
Well, yeah, because the fans fucking loved it.
Filoni explained in the Star Wars Age of the Republic Villains book, Lucas told him that he wanted Darth Maul to be part of this animated series. When Filoni asked how Maul survived the slice and dice attack of Kenobi, George Lucas just told him to figure it out. From there, Maul would make his return at the end of the Clone Wars 3rd season.
I mean, it worked.
Further, Lucas wanted to position Darth Maul as the main villain of his...
I mean, let's face it. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Planned movie sequel trilogy. That was before The Beard sold Lucasfilm to Disney, though, and thus plans clearly significantly changed by the time that episodes 7, 8, and 9 hit the silver screen.
Yeah, let's not even talk about those, can we?
No more. Episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
I'm torn on this one.
Of the Holy Trilogy, one of the most baffling changes later made by George Lucas was the removal of Return of the Jedi's Yub Nub song. The tune played as the Ewoks and our heroes celebrate.
I'm really torn on that because I like the Yub Nub song, but it didn't quite fit with the re-edit.
Little ditty as the Ewoks played drums with stormtrooper helmets, but it was full of the charm that had Return of...
Oh yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. Because that actually is the most subtle but dark fucking part of Return of the Jedi. Let's be honest here. Earlier in the movie, those cute little fuzzy bastards were going to cook and eat our heroes. Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Chewbacca, etc. They were going to cook and eat them. As C-3PO said, you are to be the main course of a banquet in my honor. Now, that means they're going to get fucking cooked and eaten. What the fuck do you think happened during that end scene? The fucking stormtroopers, they didn't just like throw off their armor and turn to the good side, so to speak. They weren't just prisoners of war. They were the fucking meat that these motherfuckers were eating. I guarantee you that. That's dark as shit. And we didn't even spot that back then. It took me like 15, 20 years to make that connection. So, yeah, that's fucked up. Lucas had a fucking dark side to him. And I don't care what anybody says. I admire the man, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that he created Star Wars. But god damn it, that was fucking dark.
That the Jedi appealing to so many. To George Lucas, though, this was a scene that he wasn't happy with by the time that he came to tweak those initial 3 Star Wars pictures in 1997.
I don't mind the added celebration. I really don't.
Galaxy-wide grandeur that Lucas now wanted, he replaced Yup Nub with a victory score composed by the legendary John Williams. It wasn't just the song that changed, though, for the entire final minute or 2 of Return of the Jedi also changed. As this new song played out, the action took in celebrations on planets such as Coruscant, Naboo, Tatooine, and Bespin.
Yeah, and I was okay with that.
This change made kind of zero sense. The original Yub Nub celebration was one moment of victory in the larger battle of stopping the Empire. Death Star 2 had fallen, but the Empire still existed and still had plenty of numbers. So
no, well, yes and no. You see, the celebration across the galaxy was because the Emperor himself had been killed. So we thought. Pardon. Yeah, the celebration was because the Emperor was killed. Darth Vader was no more. So, okay, I get that. I'm okay with it.
To see the entire galaxy celebrating at the end of 97's
Pardon.
special edition of Episode 6.
Beer makes you do that.
Number 8. Who shot first?
Now,
Episode
this
4,
was a major fuck up, in my
While he may
opinion.
not have had quite as much stock as Boba Fett, when it came to cult characters of the first set of Star Wars pictures, Greedo most certainly had his fair share of fans. This bounty hunter was only on our screen for a matter of
I had his
minutes
action
opening
figure, by the
act of
way.
New Hope, but Greedo clearly made quite an impression as he butted heads with Han
And this
Solo
George
in
Lucas's
Solo,
character.
and by butting heads,
I love it.
This means taking a shot at Han. Or did Han shoot first? Or was it really Greedo getting...
Now, wait a minute. Let's clear this up a second. Let's clear this up. Han Solo didn't shoot first. He shot only. Greedo never got his shot off because Han Solo beat him to the fucking punch. That's a goddamn fact.
Of that first shot. This is one of the great questions of the entire Star Wars franchise, and it's a topic that has often split this series' fan base into some
Shit,
extremely
I should have made sure I had
passionate ways
another one
across
ready.
the decades. For George Lucas, though, he clearly wasn't happy with the scene that ended up costing Greedo his
That's
life.
alright. I
In
got a
the
bag there.
1977 theatrical cut of the movie, it's Han who shoots first and kills Greedo after the bounty hunter
No.
talks about how much he's looking forward to.
Again, he didn't shoot first. He shot only. Han Solo took the only fucking shot. Greedo did not get a chance to do the shot because
Killing Solo.
he got fucking
By the
shot in the
time
goddamn
he made
chest or
1997
face or what the
special
fuck
editions,
ever.
George Lucas had changed this so that Greedo takes the shot first. Han avoids it and swiftly fires back.
Yeah, and that
Once the
looked like shit.
2004 DVD release of the Holy Trilogy came
And now
out,
they added a
George
fucking
again
McClunky
changed
to it.
things so that the pair shoot their blasters at nearly the exact same moment.
Nope.
Number 7. Luke finally sees his father. Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. The finale of Return of the Jedi famously saw Darth Vader step in and put a halt
About
to the
that.
Emperor's assault on Luke Skywalker, with Vader throwing his master to his apparent doom. In the aftermath of this, the wounded, dying Vader asked Luke to remove his helmet so that he can look upon his son with his own eyes.
Which is a
Here,
very
franchise
touching
fans
scene,
got
by the
their
way.
first glimpse of the real Anakin Skywalker, the man behind the mask and machine-addled outfit.
Yeah.
Why did George Lucas have such an issue with this scene, though? Well, it was down to the eyebrows of the original Anakin actor, Sebastian
Oh yeah, I
Shaw.
remember
By
that.
the
Now,
time
now
Lucas
that
came to release the
now let me just go ahead and say this. This minor change I definitely approved of, because that was right. That was actually right to do, because the way Anakin had been burned, he should not have had eyebrows. That motherfuckers were never going to grow back. So okay, I was okay with that little change.
DVD versions of the Holy Trilogy in 2004, the filmmaker was eager to tidy up Shaw's eyebrows. Thus, the bushy, prominent eyebrows seen in the initial 1983 release of Return of the Jedi,
Which we didn't even notice, by the way.
This version of Jedi left Annie with absolutely no eyebrows whatsoever. In fairness, this would actually make a whole lot of sense once audiences got to see Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith in 2005.
Right.
The drastic burns to Skywalker's body would have made it impossible for his brows to have grown back again after he was
Exactly.
decimated on Mustafar.
So that made sense.
Number 6, The Force Ghosts. Episode
Okay,
6,
this is the
Jedi.
part where
He
yeah,
takes
I
the
kind of
movie
take an
eyebrows
issue.
of Sebastian Shaw's Anakin Skywalker at the end of Return of the Jedi. George Lucas ultimately ended up removing Shaw entirely from one of the film's key shots. Said
Which,
shot
that
was
I
the Force
disagreed
ghost
with.
of Anakin joining the spirits of Obi-Wan and Yoda.
Yep, that's the
taking up
original
his rightful
version.
place alongside his fellow Jedi Masters after righting his previous wrongs. Here, the original version of Episode 6 had Shaw alongside
Can't really
Sir
say
Guinness
righted
and the
his
Grand
wrongs,
Force
but alright.
controlled Yoda. This scene actually managed to remain intact throughout Lucas's 1997 special editions, but it was with the 2004 DVD release of the Holy Trilogy that saw George decide he was no longer happy with this scene. Thus, Sebastian Shaw was out and Hayden Christensen was in.
Yeah, before I let this go on, let me talk about that for a second, because they should have left Sebastian Shaw in there. I mean, granted, you know, the only direction he was given was smile at the camera and look happy. I mean, I get that. That, you know, that's behind the scenes shit. But it worked. On screen, it worked. Because he was Anakin again when he died. So, and you know, if you watch the movies in their release order, but at the current Disney Plus versions, it's gonna look weird and you're gonna be like, wait, who the fuck is that? Unless you've seen the prequels. Well, if you're watching them in release order, you haven't seen the fucking prequels yet. So, you know, I mean, that's kind of why I got my hands on the original versions. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But hey, I bought the original versions back in the day. Oh, fucking hell, Sneaky's up here. She's just taking a drink from the bowl behind the monitor. But anyway, yeah, I don't think that Sebastian Shaw should have been replaced with Hayden Christensen. I like Hayden Christensen, don't get me wrong. I think he did very well as Anakin in both Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. I think he did a really good job. I totally get what he was trying to do. And, you know, I'm gonna probably end up doing like a commentary on those 6 movies and maybe some others. I don't fucking know. I have no fucking clue what I'm gonna do here, but anyway. One thing I do have to say is that Sebastian Shaw should not have been replaced in that closing scene. He really shouldn't have been. Because there are going to be people that want to watch in release order. And that kind of breaks that. And, you know, I'm really hoping my grandson hasn't watched anything yet, because I would love to record his reaction to all of this shit. But anyway, I had no idea how that's going to turn out. All right, here we go.
First appearance of JABBA.
Oh yeah, this.
Hope. Much like some of the other scenes featured on this list, the first appearance of Jabba the Hutt is one that George Lucas was forever frustrated with. Well, until he was finally able to edit the scene accordingly decades later.
Alright, let me let me pause here for a second, because I understand where he's about to go with this. I saw the scene previously with the original actor that stood in for Jabba before Jabba was even designed. And I actually saw that before Return of the Jedi was released in theaters back in 83, and yeah, I was in theaters in 1983 to see Return of the Jedi. You know, shit still leaked out. But, you know, I get it. You know, when he did the 1997 version with the digital Jabba, it really looked like shit, if I'm honest. But, you know, I got what he was trying to do when he reinserted that scene. And it has since been updated to be better. So, I'm okay with it.
Played by Declan Mulholland, this first appearance of Jabba was filmed for A New Hope and had the character initially as a fur coat.
Yeah, that's the one.
Lucas intended to replace Mulholland with a stop-motion character in post-production, but budget issues meant that wasn't possible. Unhappy with what he was left with, George cut the scene entirely. With budget not being an issue at the same time in 1997, Lucas reinserted this scene and replaced Mulholland with a CGI Jabba the Hutt in the visage that we
which looked like shit at the time. I mean, we even knew it looked like shit.
Superior CGI model of Jabba that was inserted for the DVD release of the original Star Wars films. Even then, Lucas noted on the commentary track for the 04 version.
Also, I do want to say that there is a package with the original cuts of the movies with the DVD release. There was pardon. There was There was the original cut and then the updated cut. And I managed to get my hands on that DVD package. Maybe I'll do them. I don't know. Who knows?
Version of A New Hope, how he'd still debated cutting the scene out of the movie once more.
Yeah, they had to like raise Han Solo up.
MENACE'S finale. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Taking shots at The Phantom Menace is pretty low-hanging fruit these days, with many
bullshit. I love that movie.
And the impact that it had.
And I'm an OT fan, because
While there are
I was 10 years old when the original Star Wars came out. I was, how old was I? Let's see, that was 99, so I was, 30-some years old. I was in my younger 30s when The Phantom Menace came out. I fucking loved that movie. I loved it. I had no problem with Jar Jar Binks. I loved Darth Maul. Qui-Gon Jinn was my favorite fucking character in that movie. Just saying.
Bright spots in episode 1, George Lucas himself clearly had some issues with the final moments of the picture, as shown in the excellent The Beginning, Making of Star Wars Episode 1 documentary.
Pardon?
A first watch of the initial cut of The Phantom Menace had Lucas questioning whether or not he'd done too much too quickly in the moments after the death of Qui-Gon Jinn. As pointed out by editor Ben Burt at the time, Episode 1 shifts way too frantically from mourning the loss of a hero to the big escape sequence to comedy with Jar Jar Binks to the return of a young Anakin Skywalker. It's absolutely fascinating to watch this documentary footage of George Lucas almost wincing his way through this sequence, realising that he may have actually fucked up the grand return of cinema's greatest franchise. How much of The Phantom Menace's finale was ultimately changed after this, we'll never know for sure. Either way, it was clear that George Lucas wasn't at all happy with what he'd initially put together for the film's final few minutes.
I was cool with it.
The whole of The Force Awakens.
Oh,
Episode
Jesus
7,
Christ.
The Force Awakens. Now, this isn't a scene, and definitely not one of his Star Wars movies, but George Lucas was not at all impressed by J.J. Abrams' Episode 7, The Force Awakens. As detailed by
for
former
fuck's
Disney
sake.
CEO in his The Ride of a Lifetime book, Lucas didn't even attempt to hide his disappointment after Kathleen Kennedy screened The Force Awakens for him ahead of the
Fucking
film's
hell, here comes the
release.
E again.
Of course, this was the first Star Wars picture to be released following the House of Mouse's purchase of Lucasfilms 3 years prior. As such, Lucasfilm President Kennedy wanted to get George's thoughts on this new venture to a galaxy far, far away.
Oh, yeah.
What he just watched, Lucas bluntly told Kennedy how there's nothing new in Episode 7, lambasting
that was
a
true.
carbon copy of his original 1977 Star Wars movie, and explaining how he always viewed each new film as a way to introduce new worlds, new characters, and bring something fresh to the table. Not just that, but George slammed The Force Awakens for not having enough visual or technical leaps forward in what the finished product brought to the screen.
Okay, that's a fair
Stopping
criticism.
the Star Destroyer, The Force Unleashed. Not a scene from any Star Wars movies, but this entry instead revolves around a scene in 2008's incredibly fun The Force Unleashed video game. Now, George Lucas had given his blessing for the story of
I haven't
this
gotten
game,
that far in
with
that
players
game
taking
yet.
control of Darth Vader's
Oh, don't
apprentice
judge.
as he ponders the morality of his role and the responsibilities given. Yet wasn't exactly infused with the end results. While gamers
Diggy, you better fuck off somewhere.
the use of familiar faces and the ability to do all sorts of crazy stuff with the Force, George was not so impressed. In particular, one moment that really irked the beard was the sequence where Starkiller uses his Force powers to bring down a giant Star Destroyer. As a video game scene, it was pretty damn badass to witness one person wield so much sheer power, but Lucas did not agree. To George, this was seen as way too over the top, even for a game in which he encouraged the creators to do what they saw fit. After all, the legendary filmmaker has never been shy about commenting on how he sees everything other than his movies and the Clone Wars as being its own separate world and canon.
Well, that's actually a fair point.
Has detailed in since-deleted tweets, Lucas himself wasn't as directly involved in The Force Unleashed as some fans originally thought, and the Star Destroyer scene in particular wasn't to his liking.
Well, like I said, I haven't gotten that far.
Siblings. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh,
This
Jesus
is partly
Christ.
educated guesswork here, but one has to think that George Lucas really isn't keen on the scene where Luke and Leia share a kiss in The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh,
Of course,
come
Return of
on.
The Jedi would reveal.
Alright, let me stop it right there. Number one, they did not know they were siblings at the time. Actually, that was the clue to Leia that she brought up in Return of the Jedi. I know. I've always known. She knew the first time she kissed him on the fucking Death Star when they made that little, swing and leap. That was like her first clue. And then in The Empire Strikes Back, that was like her second fucking clue. It's bullshit. I don't buy it. And that was because they didn't know they were fucking siblings at the time. So that was how she figured it out. Which is why she wasn't totally fucking stunned when Luke said, "You're my sister," basically. So, knock this shit off.
Siblings, not just siblings, mind, but the two would actually be twins. Neither character was aware of this at the time of the Empire's smooch, and likewise, neither was Lucas. As detailed in Star Wars,
that's true enough.
Screenplays, the original plan was very, very different, especially when it came to these Skywalker siblings. Originally, Lucas had zero plans to have Luke and Leia be brother and sister. And
true, but it did work, though.
Two parts of a love triangle involving Han Solo. When Yoda spouts "there is another" in The Empire Strikes Back, that was a reference to Luke's sister, but the sister was not going to be Leia, and was going to be a character Lucas intended to introduce in his planned sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I'm an
it was
asshole.
only when he got to Return of the Jedi that George decided to combine Leia and this mystery sister together.
Right.
In hindsight, surely George Lucas must look back on the Empire's big kiss scene and just slap his head in regret, right? After all, incest, even in a galaxy far, far away, isn't cool. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 Star Wars scenes George Lucas hated. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules.
No, seriously, I'm not. No. Hold on. Let me try something here. Let's see. I don't know if this worked or not, but if it did whether it did or didn't, it doesn't matter. No, seriously, the whole sibling thing, they didn't know. And, I kind of say that from experience because my grandmother had once told me that, she was afraid that I would end up meeting my sister, whom I didn't know was my sister. And, that we would fall in love and all of that kind of bullshit. But, it's kind of funny to think about it that, we might have figured it out. Oh, fucking hell, I swear. Sneaky, will you fuck off somewhere? I swear, where did this cat come from? Oh, that's right, my father-in-law dropped her off. Anyway, with that whole, sibling thing, you kind of would figure it out because while you might think there was like an attraction there, it would eventually come out that y'all were siblings and you would figure it out first. I never like got involved with my sister in that direction, but when she called me up out of the blue when I was 18, she just dropped enough truth bombs to make me understand that, hey, I had a sister. And, it's just how it worked out. But, yeah, I think Luke and Leia, he may not have figured it out really that quick, but, he probably had a boner. Because, let's face it, Leia was hot. And, strong female character. And don't give me that bullshit that we didn't know that she was a strong female character. We knew it. We fucking loved it. At least back in 1977, 1980, 1983. And don't give me that shit. But, yeah. That's just how it was. It's fucking hell. But, yeah, I've given my thoughts on all of this, so let's just cut it there.